Proved his talent as a cyclist by making 3 Olympic teams. And then he set out to widen his athletic horizons by winning the 1981 Ironman Triathlon. But his first appearance in the triathlon in 1980 taught him a painful lesson. He barely made it through the swim and went back home to improve upon that skill to win the race the next year. So now the pattern repeated itself. Just as he mistrained for his first triathlon, he misjudged the amount of training necessary for his first cross-country bike race. He has talent, but he simply wasn't in good enough shape to put in the kind of miles to match Haldeman in this race.
Howard's family lives in Springfield, Missouri, and he went there to train for the bike race. The classic endurance athlete is often perceived as one driven by inner forces, competing for the sake of the competition. But John Howard is not that man. He has turned ultra-endurance into a 52-week-a-year business, functioning as author, promoter, competitor, and entrepreneur. If there is any endurance athlete who craves public recognition, it is he.
Most people don't understand just how serious we are as athletes, and almost everything I do is either competitive or it's business related. I firmly believe that combining sports is more important than pursuing one sport individually. I think that what we're looking for is total fitness, and the only way to find it is to participate in several different sports. I believe in pushing my limits. I've always been a endurance freak, if you will, and I'm more concerned about doing something that's never been done before. I don't look at it as any tough, rigorous activity. I look at it as something that is improving me as a person, enhancing the quality of my life. My philosophy is work into it. Don't go out hard. To start slow, work into the race, and then gradually, if all goes well, get stronger toward the end. I focus on the pain rather than put it out of my mind.
In the weeks before this event, Howard won a 24-hour race in New York, completed a book on endurance, solicited sponsorships, and devoted hours each week to the planning of other ventures. And despite all that, he fully expected to be the man to beat.
It's important to me to win this race because I feel like this is the start of an event that will put cycling on the map.
As he prepared for the last 11 miles ride into Tucumcari, Howard could console himself with the fact that there were still 12 states and the others who were pursuing Lon Haldeman. It was raining just as hard on Haldeman's head as he tried to drive forward into the 15-mile-per-hour headwinds of West Texas.
I'd like to make a point here that may not seem logical at first. The elements, the obstacles that crop up to hinder you, the steep uphill grades, stiff headwinds, heavy rains, definitely present physical difficulties and therefore worsen physical fatigue. But sometimes these same elements serve to distract your mind from the sameness of the constant cadence and the constant body position. A rider can't appreciate a pouring storm when he's fighting it, but when he's through it, he may realize that he was forced to concentrate, forced to stay awake, and suddenly 4 or 5 hours have passed without his even knowing it.
Unusual as Haldeman made his way from state to state for roadside characters to notice the rolling cameras and try to force their way into the act. Sometimes, as in the Texas-Oklahoma border town of Texoma, it was worth a couple of laughs. Count today till I can raise my eyes to your dear sky. But while some along the road noticed leader Haldeman, the other 3 riders pressed on in relative obscurity. The world went on without noticing them, as in the town of Dalhart, 53 miles back into Texas from Oklahoma. Dalhart gleefully celebrated its annual rodeo as John Howard silently pressed down on it from the west. would be 11:30 that Saturday night before Howard finally rolled through Dalhart, 7 hours behind Haldeman, and as for spectator interest, a far cry from the rodeo. Far up ahead, Lon Haldeman was plowing through the darkness again. At 3:15 that morning, he would stop in Meade, Kansas, 1,253 miles down, 1,725 to go. He was over 100 miles ahead of John Howard, 155 miles out front of Michael Shermer, and 190 away from a badly hurting John Marino. On a personal note, I can remember even now a thought that flashed through my mind sometime in the wee hours of that fourth exhausting day. My God, I thought, they're really going all the way to New York, slowly, painfully, on bicycles.
Our coverage of the Great American Bike Race will resume next Saturday as we pick up this incredible journey on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Travel arrangements made through and a promotional fee paid by United Airlines. United flies more people to Hawaii than any other airline. That's what friendly skies are all about.
Thank you. You've already seen the first 4 days of the Great American Bike Race, a transcontinental test of endurance for 4 men. Lon Haldeman, who left the field behind by riding through the first night and rode alone for the next 3 days. John Howard, who expected to win but was met in the early stages of his first transcontinental ride with what can only be called a rude awakening. Michael Shermer, whose carefully programmed scientific approach to the race kept him more comfortable than the others, but back in 3rd place. And John Marino, whose dream for this race became a nightmare of blisters, broken bikes, and pulled muscles.
Going down that long, lonesome highway.
It's a long, lonesome ride, stretching from Santa Monica, California, through 15 states to the Empire State Building in New York. 2,978 miles by bicycle. Lon Haldeman holds the record for this ride, 10 days, 23 hours, and 27 minutes. But with nearly half a country behind him, 3 of the 4 riders were ahead of that pace.
But till I do, I won't be hanging round. Going down that.
And you'll see the conclusion of the first Great American Bike Race today on ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Live life my way.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This is ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer, who invites you to see the 1983 Ford cars and trucks. Have you driven a Ford lately? Buy Budweiser, the king of beers. Reach for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Castrol Motor Oil, engineered for today's smaller, higher revving engines.
On the morning of Sunday, August 8, 1982, Lon Haldeman was riding his bicycle in Brenham, Kansas. To motorists on Highway 54, just another small distraction on the shoulder of the road. But to the little world of marathon bike racing, he was history, because on this day, Lon Haldeman held a big lead over 3 other riders in the first Great American Bike Race, a 2,978-mile trek from the Santa Monica Pier to the Empire State Building. I'm Jim Lampley with Diana Nyad, and we went along for this incredible ride. By this, the 5th day of the race, a pattern had been established. As the leader, Haldeman would ride into towns like Wichita to be greeted by police and local bike club escorts. Hours later, his pursuers would filter through the same towns without welcoming parties, without notice, without a word of hello to break the monotony of the ride. Everyone had had problems.